Good evening. This is week 7 and the final week for Social Work 541, Social and Economic Justice 2. So let's, as always, go over our introduction. There is no outside social media for the week. So for week 7, the objectives are to understand the purposes of program and community intervention evaluation, and to develop specific skills appropriate to program and community intervention evaluation, including satisfaction surveys, management information, and focus groups. The learning activities for this week are as follows. And before I go into the learning activities, just a reminder that this is the final week of the course. I would ask that you get your assignments in on a timely basis because there is a very small window to get in grades. So we will not have a lot of time to hold out grades waiting for you to do final posts. So I ask you to be timely this week so that everything in terms of your grades can be done on time. Also, please complete the course evaluation. Course evaluations are very, very, very important. We do take your input seriously. Some things we do are in connection with social work competencies that we are required to make sure that all students achieve, and that is required by the Council on Social Work Education. But individual feedback, collective feedback on the course is very much appreciated and is taken seriously into consideration. And I will not see that feedback until well after the course has been completed. So, speaking of evaluation, this week is on evaluation. There are at least 5 readings. 2 are on evaluating programs, and 3 are on evaluating community interventions. And they're all the University of Kansas, the Community Toolbox. To speak a little bit more about evaluation, why do we do evaluation? Well, first and foremost, we want to see if our intervention plans have worked. We want to make changes in those plans where it is necessary to make changes. So sometimes evaluations are not done necessarily at the very end of a program. They are done periodically to make those changes, and then to develop new strategic interventions if that is warranted. Ideally, evaluation plans should be developed before we even do a implementation of a strategy so that we know what data we're going to have to collect along the way in order to be able to evaluate the effectiveness of that plan. We want to involve members in the community both in structuring that evaluation plan, but also where possible in helping us to gather the data. And then we must remember to report our results back to the community. It's very annoying for community members for us to collect lots of data and then never tell the community the results of that data. There are 2 discussion posts for this week. And this is taking a minute. The first, here's a reminder, another reminder to, if you have strong artifacts from this class, to upload those to your e-portfolio. So again, 2 discussion posts for this week. The first requires someone in your group to post your evaluation plan, your community needs and services plan, to this forum. And once that is posted, you are each going to be following up with 3 other DIETS plans. So for each, give suggestions as to how the effectiveness, success of the plan could be evaluated. In each response, include at least 1 critical measure or variable that should be examined and a data collection method. In each response reference at least one of the course readings for the week. Use a different course reading in each of your responses. So that is requiring 3 different references, one for each. The initial post is Thursday. The follow-up is between Friday and Sunday. The next discussion post asks you to go back to the shared case of Anita and her family and now look at it from a macro perspective. Given your class learning and experience, what social change would be desirable? What social change would be possible? What are 2 or 3 macro level interventions that could be used to lead this social change? And then be specific. So is it coalition building? Is it social marketing, advocacy, social media as some examples? And what are some ways to determine whether these interventions are effective? And your initial post is due by Thursday, follow up between Friday and Sunday. The last assignment is the written assignment, and we went over it last week. You are now doing either posting now your actual press release or letter to the editor, and each of you is to contribute again where there's a triad for your group. One of each is required, but you feel free to do more than one so that all 3 of you are providing either a letter to the editor or a press release. So you're going to now create those documents. You're going to upload them. And that is your assignment for week 7. So in your community services plan, you talked about those letters to the editor and your press releases. Now you are going to be creating them and uploading them by Sunday. So those are the assignments for this week. If you have any questions, please get back to me as quickly as possible, either through the Canvas email or through my personal email at norma.thomas13@gmail.com. It has been my pleasure to work with you this semester. I hope you have learned information about working on the macro practice level, and that as a reminder, even if your choice of practice is working at the individual and family level and small group level, remember that all the members of those client groups come from communities. Also remember that if you are seeing the same problem over and over again in your community of practice, then as a social worker, it behooves us to look into what are the causes of those social problems and see if there's a way that we can begin to advocate for solutions for those problems. Doing the same thing over and over again, we know is defined as insanity or just not being very effective. So if we want to make a change in the world, let's do something different. Let's try to solve the problem instead of lamenting the fact that the problem exists. So that's what it means to be a macro practitioner, taking on some of those big picture issues. You don't have to change the world, you just have to do something, I always say, where you sit. So wherever you sit, you can make change. And where 2 or 3 are gathered, change can be made. So with that, again, it's been my pleasure working with you this semester. And if you have any questions, please let me know as quickly as possible. Thank you.